welcome back to the City Girl Writer channel, where I talk about books and films. And today is a very special review, where this is actually the first time I'm ever going to be making a rant review, because this particular book really just made me so angry, disappointed, and frustrated that it just deserves to have its own dedicated video. Now, we're going to be spilling a lot of tea, so hopefully in this very cold times, especially if you live in the northern hemisphere in these cold times, because as where I am right now, I'm literally looking at my windows and I'm seeing snowfall. So great. And it is in the teens. We're at single digits. So please get yourself a nice hot beverage of your choice, as I really talk about a book that made me very angry, that I kind of want to put in the trash. But you know, I like to be a little bit dramatic, but please do get yourself a cup of tea, and I will be drinking some tea while we're going on, because I am cold and tea is delicious. All right. So, based on the thumbnail and in the title of this video, you will know that I'll be talking about The Cloisters by Katy Hays. Now, I do want to keep in mind going in for this rant review that this is written by a debut author, so sometimes you do have to give a little bit of grace since this is a debut, but it's also like, I've read better debut novels, all right? I'm just saying, that's just me. I've read better debut novels, so I still gotta criticize this book just like how I criticize any other book I read. As much as I have indeed not liked this book, I don't have any strong opinions toward the author herself, so I'm just going to be talking about the book and whatever Katy Hays has decided to write in this book, not regarding her as an author. Just want to leave that in mind. I'm sorry for the noise right there. We have hot and cooling system working right now, which is great because it is cold. It is cold where I am. It is freezing, so you know, we need all the heat we can get. So sorry, I apologize for the noise. I'll be in and out throughout this video, so buckle up with that. Despite the fact that this is a rant review, I don't really think this book is problematic. Just to like, for anyone who might be interested in reading it, I personally don't think it is problematic. I've just been looking around with all my tabs and stuff. You can see right there. You can see all those tabs. And based on I don't remember anything it being problematic. So if you do read this book, you're not reading anything problematic, at least not that I've seen or what I've read from other people's reviews. So if you want to read this book, you can read this book. Please take this review with a grain of salt, because this is just a really detailed, personal, subjective review of a book that just truly disappointed me, which I can't tell if it's mostly my fault or the book's fault, but to be honest, I think it might just be both. I think it is my fault and the book's fault. So, not a great time, because, you know, I could own up if it's my fault for looking at a book wrong, and the book itself is fine. But honestly, I do believe that this book is just not that well put together. That's just my opinion. But, you know, just want to say all of that. And as far as this review being either spoiler-free or with spoilers, I'm going to be mostly diving into spoilers for the most part, to be honest. But for the most part, I do want this to be spoiler-free, just for anyone who might be interested in reading this book, just so that they can read it without, you know, being spoiled. But I will put like an icon or something to show that we're talking about spoilers. So yep, I think that's all the caveats I want to say right now before we dive into it. So here's my spoiler-free general thoughts. I'm not totally sure who the intended audience was. Like, this book was marketed as an adult dark academia novel, or more formally an adult mystery contemporary gothic novel, which I'm just like, where? But you know, whatever. Anyways, so yeah, I don't really know what kind of dark academia fan would really enjoy this dark academia novel. Unless you're really new into the subgenre, then maybe you could enjoy this, but I really don't know. And also, I don't know if this was my own intuition or the book itself, since it does deal with tarot and all that stuff. But I feel like everything to me was like predictable and uninteresting, and the mystery behind it was also just lackluster as well. So I don't know. I just don't know what the point of this novel is. But before I even get to that, I really should talk about what even this book is about. So let's start with talking about the synopsis, shall we? The Cloisters by Katy Hays is about Anne Stillwell arriving in New York City to spend her summer at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Instead, she finds herself assigned to the Cloisters, a Gothic museum and garden renowned for its collection of medieval art and its enigmatic researchers, Patrick Rowland and Rachel Mondre, and Leo Bitberg, the gardener. Anne is happy to indulge the researchers' outlandish theories with ancient divination to escape her troubled past in rural Washington. When Anne discovers a breakthrough breakthrough in the form of a cryptic deck of 15th century tarot cards, she finds herself at the center of a dangerous game of power, seduction, and ambition. Now, does that sound kind of interesting? Because it sounded a little bit interesting to me. I mean, when you really think about it, art museum, a Gothic museum specifically, research into ancient divination, and we also get to see a cryptic deck of 15th century tarot cards. Now, I know for not everyone's really interested in the whole thing with divination and even with tarot cards, but that's honestly what drew me into this book. But also, I even read this book because of Jesse from Botas' Books Patreon buddy read. This was our buddy read for the month of November. And I will have to say that a lot of us, almost all of us, didn't give it higher than 3 stars. For the most part, it was like a 1s and 2s, but very few 3s. So yeah, a lot of us that read it did not enjoy this one. We did not enjoy this one. I do feel bad for kind of bashing this book because it is written by a debut author, but like, I'm sorry, but there's a lot of things in this book that needs to be improved upon. And also, as you couldn't tell already, this is the Book of the Month edition. So I was able to get it as an add-on for Book of the Month. So I was just like, yeah, let's read it. It's short. I'll get through it in the month, since it's also less than, at least this copy is less than 300 pages. Although I think if you get like the original normal copy, like the Barnes & Noble Book Club exclusive edition or something, I think it's a little bit over 300. So, you know, depending on what copy you have, it's really depending between that less than or a little bit more than 300 mark. But, you know, it's easy to get through. I was able to get through it. Although, even though it's quote-unquote easy to get through, I will have to say that it was tough for me to go through with it because, you know what, but that's for later. That is for later. Now, for how I felt when I finished it, honestly, I really just felt like this book just wasted my time. I was like, this is it? This is the novel. Like, it just didn't make sense. Like, my expectations were it was going to be a dive into the history of divination. There'll be tarot card magic, or maybe even if it's not magical in that sense, maybe in the low magic sense, but at least a heavy use of the tarot cards, which, to be honest, I would have to say that we don't get to use tarot cards in any regards until, I don't know, halfway through, maybe even 2/3 through, but even then it's sparse through, so it's like, eh. And also, I thought there'll be a critique on academia, hence it being dark academia, you know. And for the most part, it really doesn't really critique academia, or it kind of does, but it's so half-assed. I'm just like, you just put that there just so that you can say you're critiquing, even though really you're not. You're just making a statement that's just, you're not exploring, like, nothing. And I also thought there'll be interesting characters. Are any of these characters that I listed, Anne, Patrick, Rachel, Leo, are these characters interesting? No, they're not. None of them are interesting. They're unlikable, but I'm just like, why? But, you know, that's just general things. So, let's see. I did say that this book is an adult contemporary novel with Gothic elements, which, to be honest, I don't think that this book did that well either. It's also dark academia, and it was marketed as dark academia because there were comp titles. It was comped as The Secret History Meets Ninth House. Now, to be honest, those titles don't give me any sense of real expectations, to be honest, because first of all, I've never read The Secret History, and I also don't plan on reading it either. But I also did read Ninth House. I didn't finish it, though. I only got like halfway through. I just DNF'd it because that book just really made me mad. So honestly, for the fact I didn't read The Secret History, and I didn't like Ninth House, that probably would have been a good sign for me to not pick up this book. So, to be fair, that's probably just my fault for reading this book and not enjoying it. I'm like, I should have known. But I wanted to give it a chance. Only for it just to disappoint me. And for other spoiler-free thoughts I can say for why this book generally just disappointed me without getting too into spoilers. I was not a fan of, like, the writing, especially the dialogue from one particular character. I'm just like, this seems weird. It seems really weird. And that particular character definitely was doing some really shady stuff. And the fact that the main character, Anne, does not see that this character has been, like, doing some weird shady stuff until, like, the last 50 pages. I'm just like, and also, I couldn't really find much of the Gothic elements marketed by Book of the Month, because Book of the Month was the one that marketed this book as this Gothic fiction, which I'm just like, how exactly is this Gothic fiction? And I had to search up what a gothic novel was, because I'm just like, I don't think this is gothic. I had to even search it up. I'm like, yeah, this doesn't fit into gothic novels at all. And then everything about the main character was just a disappointment. I'm just like, and also, and here's the big caveat for me, is that there was very little explanation on like the tarot card readings, because actually there is a part of the book that I did enjoy, was Anne Stillwell's Guide to Tarot Reading, to reading tarot. So it does actually provide the names and interpretations, upright or reverse meaning of the major arcana, which I think is very useful. And then also one with the minor arcana as well. And I like that. It's very much helpful regarding them doing tarot cards and stuff. But the way they interpreted though was just so generalized. But again, it does make sense since it is her first time dealing with the tarot cards. But like, she does, over time, she starts to get used to using tarot cards. So you would think that by the end of the book, she can interpret them a little bit better, but nope, I didn't like it. And the fact that we don't even get that many tarot card readings also was very disappointing. I'm just mad and angry and disappointed all around. But, that's pretty much all the spoilery-free thoughts that I can really provide as the time. So if you do want to read this book, then I highly suggest you pausing this video, read the book, and then probably coming back to this video, because I'm going to be talking I'm going to get into all the spoilers. I'm talking about all of the tea. All right, we will talk about the tea that really made this book piss me off. We're going to talk about the writing. We're going to talk about the characters, the setting. We're going to talk about everything else about this book. We're going to go bit by bit, section upon section. I'm ripping this book apart, okay? But before I get there, I do want to say some nice things about this book, because there is no way I would have finished this book if I didn't at least like something about it. Because that's the thing about me, about reading books that disappointed me, is that I will never read a book that I genuinely hate. I'm not one of those people. I don't like hate reading. I mean, I think it's interesting to see other people read a book and hate reading and rant about it. I'm like, oh, that's nice. But do I want to do that to myself? No. I only do it for myself because I enjoyed the book to some degree. There's an extent. Either I loved it and enjoyed it, I just rave about it, it's awesome, or I'm just deeply disappointed and I'm angry at myself for even finishing it, that I should have just DNF'd it. Which, to be honest, I did want to DNF it, but I was like, you know what, no, let's finish this so I have my full thoughts, and that way I can make, like, content like this, basically. So, just want to say about that. So, let's talk about some good things. To be honest, it is very, very quick. I don't really have much to say about the good stuff. But, what are some good things? Well, one, I do like the fact that at least my copy is less than 300 pages. So it was doable for me to read in about 2 weeks. So that's good. I like that the book describes the Cloisters, because it actually is a real place in New York City. So that was cool. And maybe you want to, like, visit the place. So that's nice. I do like some moments in the book where we do talk about the history of divination and the use of tarot cards that probably were used as playing cards, but really it could also be used as seeing the future. I think that was cool. I like the small references to the Medici family. I think that was cool to hear about them regarding their use of tarot cards. Yeah, I think that's kind of it, to be honest. I think that's all the good stuff I can say. So, yep, now we're getting to spoilers. We're getting into all the tea. So, 3, 2, 1, Cloisters. Let's get to the nitty-gritty. So let's talk really about the writing. So, not gonna lie, I'm not really the biggest fan of the writing style. I wouldn't say it was terrible, but it wasn't the greatest either. And to be fair, to be honest, it is by a debut author. Like, I keep saying this because, like, I don't want to, like, bash the author like this with the writing style, but it really was, it needed to be improved upon. We needed to go through some edits here and there for some particular word choices and particular sentences. And I'm just like, I don't know if you wanted to have that in your book because of the implications of other things, but the book is published. Here we are. It's a book of the month selection. So here we are. And also, I did have 3 problems, particularly with the author's choices with writing. One is the way that the main character Anne is described in comparison to other characters around her, particularly with Rachel. I don't know if this is a particular stylistic choice in the main character's psyche, is the way that we don't really, how do I explain this? The author doesn't give you like a page or even a paragraph description of what the character looks like, which I always find that, which I really found that to be odd, because a lot of the other books that I read, it does give me like a paragraph or at least a few sentences talking about what the character looks like and all the other things, but this book didn't do that. It did it in the sense of comparing, of like, I don't know, this is just, again, I don't know if this is a stylistic choice of Anne comparing herself to Rachel, which could be some sort of, I don't know necessarily what the message is, but like, I guess to show how Anne doesn't really look at herself, that she just has to compare herself to Rachel, because Rachel is the kind of person she aspires to be, I guess. I think that might be the choice, but I did not like that, and I didn't like, and also, you know, we're gonna get to the part with the characters next, but like the way that plays into Anne's psyche with the rest of the story really just made this book very not enjoyable for me. So, yep, was another thing. Oh yeah, 2, the way that this book introduces the history of divination, I also did not like, because a lot of times it's through the dialogue, and we're not even in an academic setting. We're not like in the museum itself. Maybe we're like in a dinner party, we're in a social event or something, and then we talk about the history of divination, which I'm like, I feel like this doesn't seem like the right place to talk about stuff like this, especially in regards when people don't even take it seriously anyways. So, I mean, not like with the researchers or other characters, like with other side characters and minor characters, they don't really even take it seriously. Even Anne at first wasn't taking it seriously. For the most majority of those books, she doesn't really take it that seriously. She's just here just so that she can be able to go to grad school, because she just wants to go to grad school. And I'm just like, I don't know. Just the way that this book was introducing this history of divination kind of made it seem like this history is kind of boring. And I'm just like, that sucks. Especially since this is dark academia, I don't want to think that the subject matter that we are in the world of academia for is boring. That's not great. That's not great. No other creative uses either. It's either through dialogue or through the narration, which I'm just like, we don't have anything else, any other way. That's it. And this one is also pretty egregious as far as what I didn't like about the writing. Is Anne's attractions. Yes, she has more than one attractions. She's attracted to Patrick, who is like he's like, how old is this man? He's like a middle-aged white man that's just in charge of like this. I think he's like the director of the Cloisters. And then Rachel's like his partner, or I don't know. It's just like his research partner in all this, which Anne is also attracted to, even though throughout the book, they never kiss. They are just friends, which I'm like, that's fine and all, but also like the way that Anne be thinking about Rachel though, I'm just like, you trying to tell me that those two girls wouldn't? Okay, sure, fine. But the one I really did not like though was her attraction with Leo. Like any other description with Leo, I'm just like rolling my eyes. I'm just like, oh my gosh, why do you like this man? Why do you like this man? Because he gives her some sense of adventure in a way that she can be different. And I'm just like, I can't stand it. I could not stand the descriptions. I'm just like, it's just very hard. I'm like, ugh. I'm just like, oh gosh. I just wanted to read and move on. So that's just with the writing style. We even talked about the pacing. Trust me, I have a lot of stuff to talk about this book. I wrote down a lot of notes because I had problems with the pacing. I truly believe that the pacing was kind of wonky. Like the fact we knew that there was a murder that was going to happen. Like the prologue starts off with the fact that we know that there's a death in August. Someone's going to die. Someone's going to be murdered. Like we all knew this, and the Cloisters story doesn't tell you who dies, but just tells you that someone does die. So we already knew that there was going to be a murder. But for the fact that this book was 300 pages and the murder doesn't happen until like page 180, I'm just like, we only have 120 pages left of this book, and now we get to the murder. In my personal opinion, the murder should have happened a lot sooner. That's just me. It should have happened a lot sooner. And also the pacing regarding like the mystery behind like the 15th century tarot card deck also failed, to make me believe that there was something to be feared, which again, that's the point of a gothic novel. They're supposed to be giving this atmosphere of fear and horror and terror, but this book didn't make me feel any of that. There was no gothic vibes. I'm just like, there's a gothic aesthetic because of the museum, but other than that, there's nothing else. I'm just like, I felt nothing. I was not afraid, nor did I felt any fear from seeing these characters obtain the full deck. I'm like, there should have been something horrifying. Maybe there's something should have bad happened every single time they obtained a new card to collect the entire deck. Maybe something bad should have happened. Maybe we should have smaller instances of something bad happening. That way we're like, oh, this is maybe some sort of cursed deck or something. Like, give me something. Give me more. Like, huh? And I know there were like info dumps as well on like how people saw tarot cards as a way of fortune telling could also be seen as, well, supernatural. But I felt nothing in regards to that. Nothing felt supernatural for me. Like, nothing for me. There's just nothing that I felt afraid at all. And I don't know if this is a me problem or the book problem, but like, I don't know. Just the way they talked about the tarot cards just was not interesting. And it's really sad too, because like, I also have my own deck of tarot cards. Actually, hold on. Let me show y'all. See, I have my own deck of tarot cards. Now, I'm no expert on tarot cards. I will have to say this, but I do have my own deck. I do like to use it every now and then. And it's the particular kind I have. Let me see. Can you see? Come on, work with me. There you go. That's better. There. Now you can see. Okay? And like, it has its own deck guidebook. It has like the cards itself in here. It has its own box, so it's all safe and sound. And like, I don't have any fear regarding tarot cards at all. This book did not make me feel afraid of this, like, at all. I felt nothing. It didn't make me look at my own tarot cards and be like, whoa, maybe there might be something I should have been afraid about, but I felt nothing. This book made me feel nothing. And I don't know. I don't know if this is a book problem or a me problem, but honestly, it could just be both. The book just evoked nothing for me. I found no emotions except for frustration and disappointment. That's it. But now we gotta get to the part of the book that truly disappointed me was the characters. Because regarding with any dark academia book, you really come into the book wanting to read about, morally gray or morally ambiguous characters, right? It's always the characters that people really love about dark academia. All right? So let's talk about these characters for the Cloisters, shall we? All right, so let's talk about our main protagonist. Our protagonist is Anne Stillwell. She's a 25-year-old woman who was not sure on what to do for grad school, and it took about 7 years to go through her undergrad because she just wasn't sure. She kept switching her major and all that stuff. Like, she was a lost soul, okay? She just didn't know herself like that. She was born and raised in Washington State. She felt suffocated being in her small town and wanted to go to a big city like New York to explore her horizons. She lost her father a few years prior, which makes her mother stuck in the past. And Anne is trying to move past her grief by working at the Cloisters. Now, in that regard, all that in paper sounds pretty interesting, small town. Well, I don't know about interesting, but I was a little bit intrigued. Small town girl trying to move away from all that because staying in a small town just made her keep reminding her of just about the past and her father. It doesn't help either that her mother is so stuck in that past too, and the fact the time when the father was alive, and she was close to her father. So it is sad, to be honest, when I do read a few passages and stuff with Anne dealing with the memory of her lost father and her mom trying to make sure that her daughter stays with her because she just refuses to move past that grief, that she's so stuck. And Anne was so afraid that she was going to be like her mother like that. So, all that backstory stuff for Anne is fine and all, right? But when we get to the Cloisters, things are changing. And for some reason, this book wants me to believe that the thing that changed Anne as the story goes on was the city itself, New York. Even though I would have to argue that it's not the city itself, and then it's Rachel that's honestly been influencing Anne this entire time. Anne and Rachel's friendship is very toxic. It is not a very healthy friendship at all. Rachel is very controlling of everything and everyone. And she uses her pretty rich white woman privilege to pretty much climb to the top while also being the murderer. Yep, spoiler alert. I mean, we're already in spoilers, but just want to say that Rachel is the one that murders someone. And it's interesting on how long, actually not interesting, it's actually quite frustrating that it took Anne so long to know who the murderer was. And I'm just like, Rachel was giving me the ick ever since she was first introduced. I knew something was a little bit off. I wasn't totally sure. I was like, maybe it's just a little bit off. Maybe it's just the writing, but maybe Rachel's fine. But no, as time went on, I was like, oh no, she needed to go. Rachel is, no. I'm like, Anne, no, get away. Please get away. Please get away. No. Do not listen to Rachel. Don't follow in her footsteps. Don't try to compare yourself to her. Please, as far as your appearance. Like, even as time went on, the way that Anne would dress and present herself would be more similar to Rachel. And it was actually pretty terrifying for me, because I'm just like, you really are trying to be like this girl. And you don't even realize. Wow, okay. Well, seriously, Rachel is Snoop. Because, like, if I remember correctly with her story, she actually killed her parents. Like, when we start off with going to Rachel's family's home in, like, a manor and stuff, we found that her parents died like a couple of years prior, and no one knew how they drowned in a boating accident, even though Rachel survived and she was the only one wearing a life vest. And I'm just like, I don't have any evidence for this, but I know Rachel killed her parents. I didn't have any evidence. There was no evidence particularly, or at least any outwardly evidence that Rachel killed her parents, but I'm like, no, Rachel killed her parents. I just knew. I knew it in my heart, in my gut, that she killed her parents. I didn't know why. I don't know how, but I just knew that she did. I was like, nope. I knew that she did. The book made it too easy for me to figure out that mystery. And as far as who was gonna die, I wasn't totally sure who was gonna die, but as time went on, I'm like, okay, it makes kind of sense why this particular person would be the one to die, and that was Patrick. So he's like the middle-aged white man that Anne gets a seriously just, he's like, ooh, she's feeling a little bit hot and bothered by it. I'm just like, we just met this man. He's like in his 40s, 50s, which also is weird too, because like with Patrick and Rachel, even though the book has been, actually no, the book wasn't wishy-washy about it. No, it was Anne that's been wishy-washy about this. Now, I'm sorry I'm getting a little bit confused about whether it's Anne or the book, because honestly, this entire book is written in first person. So this entire time, we are in Anne's head. I'm following the book and the story through her eyes and through her head and thoughts. So please forgive me if I mix it up between like the book or Anne, because at this point it's practically synonymous, since it is written through her perspective in first person, so that doesn't help anything. But as far as Patrick, I never really had opinions on that man. I'm just like, you're just someone who exists. He's just one of those characters that he's just there to exist. Then Anne gets to, I don't want to say she thirsts, but she was definitely attracted to him. But even as time went on, as the time we get closer and closer to his murder and his death, she starts to care less about him and starts to care more about Rachel, which I'm just like, why do you even care about either of them? But whatever. She works so closely with both of them for the research to create an exhibit for the full deck of this 15th century tarot card deck. So it kind of makes sense. But so yeah, Patrick and Rachel, they have a sexual relationship. And the book doesn't explicitly explain, but like it's heavily implied that they definitely are fucking on the down low. They just are. And then we gotta talk about Leo. Oh gosh, Leo. Leo is I would say that he is Anne's love interest, but he's also fucking with Rachel as well. Or he used to fuck with her, but then I think him and Rachel used to fuck, but then they still kind of did here and there, every now and again. But even though Leo was also with Anne, so it's like, huh? So I'm just also like, wait, if you're fucking with Rachel and Leo, shouldn't y'all be getting yourself tested? Again, I'm just like, why? If you're gonna fuck around like this, can y'all be tested, please? So since Rachel is also with Patrick, but then Leo's with Rachel and Anne, but Anne is still with Leo. I'm just like, y'all, at this whole point, make it a foursome. Make it a foursome at this point. If everyone's fucking with each other, you might as well just make it a foursome. Or actually, the fact, I'm not really a big fan of Patrick anyway, so when he dies, I'm just like, make it a threesome. Make it a threesome between Anne, Rachel, and Leo. I would have at least been like, well, you did that, Katy Hays. I did not expect that, but I would have been fine. We could have just had a couple scenes, threesome scenes. I'm just saying, the book would have been a whole lot of fun to read. I'm just saying, it would have been way more interesting. But now they didn't want to do that, so sucks for me as the reader. But honestly, the one thing about the characters I really did not like was regarding the friendship between Anne and Rachel. But really was with Rachel. Rachel was just the character that I really not. I think she's the most hated character I've ever felt for a character. Like, I just did not like anything regarding with Rachel. Everything about her screams controlling and manipulative. Just everything. And I'm just like, how do you... But it's not like how. Why am I asking how? It's pretty obvious. She's young, she's pretty, she's rich, and she's a white woman. A young, pretty, rich, white woman. Think about all the privilege she got over there. She's able to travel around the world very easily. She's able to attend... She can go to any college of her choice very easily. She can afford it very easily. She can seduce her way up there. I'm just like, really? Like, Rachel was really giving girl boss, gaslight, gatekeep personality. And I'm just like, you ain't that it girl. Go away. You're not that it girl. Shoot. Bye. I'm just like, the characters, nothing about them was interesting. I'm just like, the only one I even felt any emotion towards was, again, with Rachel. But even then, I'm just like, as time went on, I was just getting really tired of reading regarding her at all. So I was just kind of waiting for it towards the end of the book, which... I think, if I remember correctly, I know I have the book right there, but honestly, I'm just trying to go by the top of my head because the book just pissed me off. I'm not trying to go back with the book anymore. But if I remember correctly, Rachel dies in the end, but the book made it, well, not the book, what am I saying? Anne, because it's in her perspective. Anne made it seem like it was possibly fate or Rachel's choice for her to practically die in the same way that her parents did. But it's interesting, though, because we found out, as well in that same chapter, which is the very final chapter we even know about all this, that Anne pretty much sabotaged the boat that Rachel was going to use. So was it fate? Was it destiny? Or was it pretty much Anne manipulating fate a little bit and practically also, in a way, murdering Rachel? Which, in my personal opinion, I will go with the latter. I felt like Anne, in the end, truly turned out to be, in a way, be like Rachel, and I don't like that. I don't like the way that this book made it seem like that, like, at all. I don't like that at all. I want to be brief about these characters because there's I feel like there's a lot to talk about with these characters. There's also really nothing to talk about these characters since they're just boring and uninteresting, and they provide just about nothing to the story. So I don't know what else to talk about these characters. So let's just move on. I have very little to say about the world building because the world is just the same as our own world. It's just that the book is set right now. It's just based on the Cloisters Museum, hence the title, which is a real Gothic museum as a part of the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City. So it's just about that. I didn't really care too much about the art museum itself. The only thing I did say earlier in this video that the book made me interested to like see it in person, but just as that, I didn't feel any other wonder or I felt nothing. I think that's not a lot of things I'm going to be saying. So I felt nothing. There's just not much to really say about the world at all, and I don't know. I can't really say either if the portrayal of how an art museum works, and like I can't say that the portrayal of the art museum is accurate either. Like I don't know anything about the Cloisters. I know nothing about the Metropolitan Museum of Art. I know nothing about art. I know very little on art history. I know very little about history divination. I also know very little on how art museums even work. So I'm going to need to like hear from people who work in the art museum world and art history and read this book. Please comment down below your thoughts about the Cloisters and how the book depicted art museums and how they function. Like, tell me, okay? Tell me. Someone who knows nothing about this. Please tell me. I am curious. But, let's just move on. I have nothing to say about the world building. Now, I do kind of want to talk about the themes of this book, but to be fully honest, this is where I have to put in the most amount of tea, because not a lot of people, well, I want to say not a lot of people, but I don't think people generally think of the themes of this book, or at least the things that this book attempts to portray, which I'm gonna say, I don't know about that, but let me drink my tea because it's a lot of tea. So, I believe there are about 3 to 4 themes that this book is attempting to explore. Fortune/luck, privilege, grief, and self-discovery. Now, if you read the book and you've never really thought about the things about this book like that, let me explain on how this book attempts to portray these themes. Let's start with fortune and luck with regarding to the tarot cards, and how the deeper you dive into the history of divination and fortune telling, the more you think of, is everything planned out? Is everything set in stone? Or could I change my fate a little bit, change the destiny, change our wheels of time, if you will? I think the fortune in this book, that the book is trying to talk about with guardian fortune and luck, is that there's a reason why things happen the way it happens. Like, for example, with the way that Anne gets to the Cloisters and she discovers herself, which again, goes more into self-discovery, or even luck and fortune in the regards of privilege and class and money and class and wealth regarding Anne versus Rachel. Since Anne grew up poor, like her parents worked at the university, but they weren't professors or anything. Even as professors, you don't make that much money either. But like her mother, like Anne's mother, worked in the dining hall services. Her father was a janitor for the school, so in one of the universities. So Anne did not have as much money growing up, even now. And even with Rachel, she grew up with wealth and money. Her parents born rich. Rachel grew up rich. So there is some comparisons regarding the worlds like that, but just with matter of fortune, like there's a reason why what things happen, like with Anne's father's death and how that happened and why it happened. I won't say about the why, because honestly I don't really know or understand why it had to happen. I don't really understand it, to be honest. I think that's one of the things that this book really started to talk about, but doesn't really finish or doesn't explore it well. Even the idea of grief and moving on, like the ideas presented in the beginning regarding like comparing Anne's way of handling grief and her mother's, was also interesting to see. But like, I don't know, I felt like it kind of went a little bit nowhere with that, because she was so far going to New York City and just never coming back, which she does not ever come back. And she doesn't really help her mom to move on either. But then again, I don't know if the mom ever will, but the book doesn't present the mother wanting to move on and just having a hard time to. But it's not like Anne is helping her mom either. But I don't know, her mom's just been stubborn, but I don't know. That's just with fortune. With privilege, there is a strong theme of class privilege, again, when I said about comparing with Anne and Rachel. And the fact that Anne also envies Rachel because of this, since she doesn't have money like that. But maybe that's also the point with guarding those two characters and the relationship, and how it just meant to just never work out. Just not only just about the manipulation and the controlling, but just the class difference between the two, and how Anne clearly envies Rachel, and that she, in a way, really does want to be like her. She wants to have everything that Rachel has. She wants the pretty, young, rich, white woman privilege like her. Even though, again, Anne is also white too, but she wants to be that pretty and young and get the attention of everyone every single time she's in a room, just like Rachel. She wants to be spectacular and interesting and important, just like Rachel. All the things. And as far as the theme of self-discovery, because I already talked a little bit about the grief, which I don't think it really went down in that regards. But I think what self-discovery also goes along with the privilege is the fact that Anne really did not know herself, because again, she didn't know with her major. She was literally in undergrad for 7 years, which is a long time to be an undergrad. I mean, sure, the traditional years is 4, and you could really be an undergrad for however long, but 7 years is a long time to be in your undergrad. So Anne was just having some trouble. So maybe that's one thing you could like about the book, is Anne's journey to self-discovery, even though the way we get there is questionable in a way regarding her really comparing herself to Rachel. And the fact that we know a lot of things, well, we start to learn more things about Rachel and how she murdered Patrick. Like, she murdered Patrick because Patrick knew about a little bit of the secret of the tarot deck cards that Anne and Rachel figured out like weeks prior, but then he also figured it out, and she wanted to kill Patrick for that finding, because they felt like that, well, Rachel's reasoning is that if she allowed Patrick to live, then when they post an article in their exhibition regarding the tarot deck cards, that Patrick will be the one credited, and then Anne and Rachel will be like footnotes. Like, they would not get any credit, like, at all. Which is possibly gonna happen, possibly true to some extent, but like, I never got the vibe from Patrick that he wouldn't allow credit to, like, he wouldn't put credit to Rachel and Anne, but like, I don't know, the book never got a chance to explore that. And also, Patrick's very dull and boring and very much non-explored, just flat as a character, flat as a freaking pancake. So I didn't even care that he died anyways. It's just the fact that he had to die. I'm just like, you're kind of being a little bit excessive here, but I don't know. That's just, I don't know. I just thought of that's unnecessary, but how does that work with Anne's self-discovery? Well, Anne does change throughout the novel in her own way, regarding her being more confident, more outspoken, more outgoing, but I don't know. It's just, I just find it really kind of contradictory that how Anne criticizing, like, she tries to shame Rachel and try to, like, tells her, like, her line of thinking of trying to, like, murdering Patrick and even murdering her parents was just completely uncalled for, but then going back and twisting that back to practically murdering Rachel in the same way that she murdered her parents. I'm like, that kind of, we missed some stuff. It's not making any sense here. That seems very contradictory right there. But, you know, like I say, and I have to say that despite the fact that I'm just disappointed and tired all around with this book, because it just made me think about dark academia and just how, because this book was really heavily marketed for it being dark academia. So it made me think that maybe I don't really like dark academia, and maybe I won't like the titles of The Secret History and Ninth House, even though I did, you know, start reading Ninth House, but I really did not enjoy that book. And it is a pretty dark book, but I just did not enjoy that one. And The Secret History, I've never read it, but to be honest, I kind of went into a rabbit hole with dark academia because of this book. Like, this book, like, when I tell you, the Cloisters made me really, I don't know, it's like you're having your own identity crisis. Like with, you know, how Anne was just trying to, like, figure out her own self. This book really made me figure out my own self, but regarding my relationship and how I think about dark academia books, and just be like, do I really like dark academia? I don't know, it made me really question, do I really like dark academia? So I kind of went into a rabbit hole and did some research. Actually, I did some considerable amount of research, at least for just, you know, like articles or YouTube videos and stuff. And I did come across some more thoughts, some more reviews and opinions on The Secret History, since this book was comped to The Secret History. And just hearing about The Secret History, it kind of made me really think about dark academia and how this book, it really is, I want to say it's similar to The Secret History, because I was trying to figure, like, how was this book compared to The Secret History and Ninth House? I didn't understand it, even though I've never read it. I never read The Secret History again. I didn't even finish Ninth House, but just, it made me think, like, where did that comparison come from? And based on what I was reading and hearing about The Secret History, there are very surface level similarities between these Secret History Ninth House to the Cloisters, but I don't think it really fits there. And also, if you're wondering if I'm ever going to read The Secret History, no, I will not. In fact, I will be making a dedicated series regarding dark academia. And there will be a video in that series, in that video experiment series, where I talk about The Secret History and why I actually refuse to talk about it. To read The Secret History. So yeah, I just want to let y'all know about that. So, you know, look for that in 2023. But anyways, just to conclude this very long rant review, because this book. So what I want y'all to take away from this review. This rant review is more of a very long, I wouldn't say necessarily in-depth analysis of this book, since again, I was not totally sure what this book was even going for. But the one takeaway I want y'all to think about, the one thing I want y'all to take away from this review is that I think this book is mediocre at best as a contemporary, but it's honestly terrible at worst because of its marketing. Like, if you come into this book thinking about how it was marketed as, you're gonna be very, very disappointed, and you would think this book is pretty terrible since it does not meet any of those expectations. So if you do read this book, come in thinking that it's more of a contemporary novel, and also with very low expectations, and then you might come out reading this book with its 3-star rating, or even 4 stars or 5 stars. I don't know. There have been people been rating it 5 stars, although on Goodreads, a lot of it has been mostly 4 stars and 3 stars, which I found it very interesting. So there's people who've enjoyed it way more than me, but I wouldn't say they genuinely loved it to like 5 stars. There's been some 5 stars, but mostly 4 and 3. So maybe you read it and you might be in that range, you know, the 3, maybe 4, 3, 3.5, around there, you know. And also, I really, based on what I talk about in this review, I hope y'all know that I really don't recommend this novel. I don't know who it's for. I don't know, maybe it's for those who are new to dark academia and they've never read one and they want to read something. I'm like, I don't even know if I can really recommend The Cloisters like that. Like, I don't see this novel as like being something to recommend, you know? I just don't see how it is. It's just, there's just interesting ideas that just did not execute really well. And maybe the author was just, maybe Katy Hays was just trying to be a little bit too ambitious, but there's not much ambition that I saw into the novel. So there's definitely some points that, honestly, if this book was a little bit longer and maybe explored a little bit more on tarot cards, like more on the tarot cards and the readings of tarot cards, maybe different spreads and stuff, and we got more into the tarot cards themselves, then maybe the book would have been interesting. And also, we need like at least 2 scenes of a threesome between Anne, Rachel, and Leo, because it only makes sense between these 2 characters and how they're all been intertwined like that. I'm like, it just makes sense for them to have a threesome. I'm just saying, make them a throuple, a very toxic throuple. But hey, throuple indeed. At least it's been interesting. I don't know, work with that. And I don't know if I'll be reading anything by this author, to be honest. I don't really know what other books that she'll be writing, but I don't really look forward to reading more by this author. Maybe, just maybe, if the book if she writes another book, that the book would be better marketed for what it really is, because this was not it as Dr. Academia. Sorry, it's just not it at all. But anyways, that is my review for The Cloisters. Now, I will be putting in the description links to the HarperCollins Union link tree and their bookshop, because right now HarperCollins Union is going on strike. Right now they're on day, as of I'm recording this, it is day 28, and I'm just like, okay, it's been over a month now since these employees have been on strike, and we still have heard nothing from HarperCollins publishers. So if you want to support them, anyways, I will link down their link tree so you can find other links to their other social media and ways to support them. And also, they do have a bookshop link as well. So if you have any HarperCollins titles that you do want to pre-order or to buy, I recommend going down to their link and pre-order from there. I'll also link down my link tree for my other social medias, like my Instagram, my Twitter, Storygraph, Goodreads, Letterboxd, like all that stuff will also be in my link tree, which I'll also put down below. So thank you again for coming to this channel to watch this, listen to me ramble and kind of talk about this book with me. If you do want to follow me, again, I'll have my link tree to follow my other socials, and I hope to see you all in my next video. Bye.